Hello, boys and girls. This is chapters 8 and 9 of Out of My Mind. This book has been a huge kind of memory trail for me because we've been talking about a young girl who is struggling with her communication. And when I used to work at the Double H Hole in the Woods Ranch, which we will be talking about later on in this book, I oftentimes would try to communicate with children who had difficulty communicating. The communication boards that I was having you challenge yourself with this weekend were the only way, excuse me, for me to communicate with a child who was bright enough and smart enough to communicate their thoughts, but were limited by what they had in front of them or the limitations of their lack of voice or lack of movements. So it's really important for Melody to have this and to have supportive people around her. Last chapter, we had a wonderful experience where the mom protected Melody in the classroom from teachers who just didn't get it. And this next few chapters give you a little bit more of an understanding of the struggles that Melody goes through. I hope you enjoy the book, and we will read chapters 8 and 9 today. Then we will read 10 together on our ELA open lesson for our Google Meet. And then we'll have 2 more chapters later on in the week. Okay? Chapter 8. For a long time, it was just me, my mom, and dad, and my goldfish, Ollie. I was 5 years old when I got him, and I had him almost 2 years before he died. I guess that's old for a goldfish. Nobody knew Ollie's name but me, but that's okay. Ollie had been a prize from a carnival Dad had taken me to, and I think Ollie's life was worse than mine. He lived in a small bowl on a table in my room. The bottom of the bowl was covered with tiny pink rocks, and fake plastic log sat wedged in the rocks. I guess it was supposed to look like something from under the sea, but I don't think there are any lakes or oceans that really have rocks that color. Ollie spent the day, all day, swimming around in a small bowl, ducking through the fake log, and then swimming around again. He always swam in the same direction. The only time he changed his course was when Mom dropped in a few grains of fish food into the bowl each morning and evening. I'd watch him gobble up the food and then poop it out, then swim around and around once again. I felt sorry for him. At least I got to go outside and to the store and to school. Ollie just swam in a circle all day. I wondered if fish ever slept. But anytime I woke up in the middle of the night, Ollie was still swimming, his little mouth opening and closing like he was trying to say something. One day, when I was about 7, Ollie jumped out of his bowl. I had been listening to music on the radio. Mom had finally figured out that I liked country western station, and I was in a good mood. The music was sounding orangey and yellowish. Sorry, boys and girls, I just got an email. There we go. Sorry about that. The music was sounding orangey and yellowish, and I listened, and the faint whiff of lemons seemed to surround me. I felt real mellow, as if I watched Ollie do his thing round and round his bowl. But suddenly, for no reason, I could figure Ollie dove down to the bottom of the bowl and rushed to the top and hurled himself right out of the bowl. He landed on the table. He gasped and flopped, and I'm sure he was surprised he couldn't breathe. His eyes bulged, and his gills on his side pulsed with effort. I didn't know what to do. He'd die without water real fast, so I screamed. Mom was downstairs or maybe outside getting the mail, but she didn't come right away. I screamed louder. I screamed again. I cried out and I yelled. I screeched. Ollie continued to flop and gasp, looking more desperate. Ollie needed water. I howled once more, but Mom didn't come running. Where could she be? I knew I had to do something, so I reached over to the table. I stretched out my arm. I could barely touch Ollie's bowl. I figured if I could get the fish wet at least a little bit, it might be able to save him. I hooked my fingers on the edge of the fishbowl and I pulled. Water splashed everywhere, all over the table, the carpet, me, and Ollie. He seemed to flop a little less for a second or two, and I kept wailing. Finally, I heard my mother thundering up the stairs. When she came through the door, she took one look at the mess and the dying goldfish and shouted, "Melody, what have you done? Why did you knock over the fishbowl? Don't you know a fish can't live without water?" Of course I knew that. I'm not stupid. Why did she think I'd been screeching all this calling for her? She scurried over to the mess, scooped up Ollie, and gently placed him back in the bowl. Then she ran to the bathroom, and I heard her running water, but I knew it was too late. Either because of the time out of the bowl, or because the bathroom water isn't the right temperature. Ollie didn't survive. Mom came back in and scolded me once more. "Your goldfish didn't make it, Melody. I don't get it. Why would you do that to the poor little fish? He was happy in his little world." I wondered if maybe Ollie wasn't so happy after all. Maybe he was sick and tired of that bowl and that log and that circle. Maybe he just couldn't take it anymore. I feel like that sometimes. There was no way I could explain to Mom what had happened. Really had to try to save Ollie's life. I just looked away from Mom. She was angry, and I was too. If she hadn't been so slow, Ollie might have made it. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want her to see me cry. She cleaned up the mess with a sigh and left me with my music and my empty spot on my table. The colors had all vanished. It was a long time before I was ready for another pet. But on my 8th birthday, my father brought a big box into the room. He seemed to have trouble holding on to it. When he set it on the floor in front of me, it exploded with a flash of wiggling, wriggling gold fun. A puppy! A golden retriever puppy! I shrieked and kicked with joy. A puppy! The clumsy little dog raced around the room, sniffing in every corner. I watched her every move, loving her right away. After exploring every table leg and every piece of furniture, the puppy stopped, made sure all of us were watching, then squatted and peed right there on the carpet. Mom yelled, but only a little. Then, that's when the dog knew she was in charge. She checked out Dad's bare toes, but she stayed away from Mom, who was trying to soak the spot out of the rug with paper towels and the spray stuff that she uses in the kitchen. Finally, the puppy circled my wheelchair around and around like she was trying to figure it out. She sniffed it, sniffed my legs and feet, looked at me for a moment, then jumped right onto my lap like she'd done a million times. I barely breathed, not wanting to disturb her. Then, wow, wow, wow! She turned around 3 times and made herself comfortable. I think she made a noise like a sigh of satisfaction. I know I did. I stroked her soft back and her head so gently as I could. I was the one who named her. Mom and Dad kept suggesting dumb names like Fuzzy and Coffee, but I knew as soon as I saw her what her name should be. I pointed to the bowl on the table, which held my first favorite candies, butterscotch caramel. They're soft enough to melt in your mouth, so I don't have to chew. And oh, are they delicious? "You want to call her Candy?" Dad asked. I shook my head no, gently, so that the sleeping puppy wouldn't wake up. "Caramel?" Mom asked. I shook my head once more. Why don't we call her Stinky? Dad suggested with a grin. Mom and I just glared at him. I continued to point at the candy dish. Finally, Mom said, I know. You want to call her Butterscotch. I wanted to shriek, but I forced myself to stay calm. I tried really hard not to do anything that would knock the puppy off my lap. Oh, I said softly as I continued to stroke the dog's silky fur. I didn't know that anything could be so soft. And she was all mine. It was the best birthday I ever had. Butterscotch sleeps at the foot of my bed every night. It's like she read the book on what a good dog or great dog ought to do. Bark only when a stranger's at the door, never pee or poop in the house. She got over that puppy stuff and kept Melody happy. Butterscotch doesn't care that I can't talk to her. She knows I love her. She just gets it. One day, a few months after I got her, I fell out of my wheelchair. It happens. Mom had given me lunch and taken me to the toilet and wheeled me back into my room. Butterscotch trotted behind, never in the way, just close by me all the time. Mom popped in a DVD for me and made sure my hands were properly positioned so I could rewind and fast forward the film. She didn't notice my seatbelt wasn't fastened, and neither did I. She traveled up and down the stairs during several loads of laundry. I'm awful messy. And I could and I guess she had started fixing dinner. The rich aroma of simmering tomato sauce floated up the stairs. Mom knows I love spaghetti. She peeked her head in to check on me and said, I'm going to lie down for a couple of minutes, Melody. Are you okay for a few? I nodded and pointed my arm towards the door to tell her to go ahead. My movie was getting good anyway. Butterscotch sat curled next to me on my chair. She's outgrown my lap. So Mom blew me a kiss and closed the door. I was watching something I'd seen a million times, The Wizard of Oz. I think most people in the world can quote sections of that movie. No extra brains required, because it's one of the movies that gets played over and over again on cable channels. But I know every single word in it. I know what Dorothy will say before she even opens her mouth. I don't think we're in Kansas anymore, Toto. It makes me smile. I've never been to Kansas or Oz or anywhere more than a few miles away from my home. Even though I knew it was coming when the movie got to the part where the Tin Man does the stiff little dance to the music, if I only had a heart, it cracks me up. I laughed so hard, I jerked forward in my chair and found myself face down on the floor. Butterscotch jumped up immediately, sniffing me and making sure I wasn't hurt. I was fine, but I couldn't get back up into my chair. Worse, I was going to miss the part where the cowardly lion gets smacked on the nose by Dorothy. I wondered how long Mom's nap would last. I didn't scream like the time Ollie had jumped out of the bowl. I wasn't upset, just a little uncomfortable. I tried to flip over, but I couldn't from the position that I landed in. If I could have seen the television from where I had fallen, I might have been okay on the floor for a little while. Butterscotch makes a great pillow. But Butterscotch went to the closed door and scratched. I could hear her claws ripping at the wood. Dad wouldn't be happy when he got home or saw that. But Mom didn't come. So Butterscotch barked. First a couple of tentative yips, then louder and more urgent. Finally, she jumped up and threw her whole body against the door, making loud thuds. She'd bark and then thud, bark, then thud. Mom couldn't ignore all that racket. I'm sure it was only a few minutes, but it seemed like longer. Mom came to the door looking groggy. Her hair was all messed up. What's going on in here? She began. Then she saw me. Oh, Melody, baby, are you okay? She ran to me, sat down on the floor, and lifted me onto her lap. She checked everything, my arms, my legs, my back, my face, my scalp, even my tongue. I wanted to tell her I was fine. All she needed to do was put me back up in the chair, but she had to do the mom thing and double check. Butterscotch, You're a good, good girl, she said as she patted the dog and hugged me tight. Doubles on the dog food tonight. I'm sure Butterscotch would have preferred a nice thick bone instead, but she can't talk either. So both my dog and I get what they give us. Mom carefully put me back in the chair and made sure my seatbelt was latched correctly. Butterscotch curled up right in front of me, making sure, I guess, that if I slid out again, she'd be there to soften the fall. That dog is amazing. Mom restarted the video from the beginning, but somehow that yellow brick road had lost some of its magic glow. Nobody really gets wishes granted by the great Oz. As I watched, I wondered if I were blown into Oz with my dog, what would we ask the wizard for? Brains? I've got plenty. Courage? Butterscotch isn't scared of nothing. A heart? We got lots of heart, me and my pup. So what would I ask for? I'd like to sing the Cowardly Lion and dance like the Tin Man. Neither one of them did those things very well, but that would be good enough for me. In this chapter, boys and girls, before I start the new one, I want you to be thinking about the comparisons between Melody and the two pets that they just gave examples of. Wonderful Butterscotch and poor Ollie the fish. And I want you to be thinking about the similarities that were posed in this chapter between Melody and her fish and the dog. Ollie the fish was stuck in a bowl, swimming around and around in a small area. Melody was stuck in her chair, only allowed to go just a few miles from her home, kind of like a fishbowl. Then we introduce Butterscotch, who is a heart like Melody and is caring like Melody, but can't speak like Melody. So we have some great examples of how animals and how other characters can show characteristics of our main character, Melody. I hope you enjoyed that chapter, and we're going to continue on with one more for us today. Chapter 9. When I was 8, things changed. I think I knew Mom was going to have a baby even before she did. She smelled different, like new soap. Her skin felt softer and warmer. She picked me up out of bed one morning, then almost let me fall back onto the mattress. "Whew," she said. "You're getting awfully heavy, Melody. I'm going to have to start lifting weights." Her forehead had broken out in a sweat. I don't think I'd gained any weight. It was Mom, who was different. She sat down on the chair next to my bed for a few minutes, then suddenly ran out of the room. I heard her throwing up in the bathroom. She came back a few minutes later, looking all pale, and her breath smelled like mouthwash. "I must have eaten something funky," she mumbled as she got me dressed. But I think she knew even then. I bet she was scared. When Mom finally figured out, she sat down with me to break the news. "Melody, I have something wonderful to tell you." I did my best to look curious. "You're going to have a baby brother or sister real soon." I grinned and did my best imitation of surprise and excitement. I reached out and hugged her. Then I patted her stomach and pointed to myself. She knew what I meant. She looked me right in the eye. "We're going to pray that this little one is fat and fine and healthy," she told me. "You know we love you, Melody, just as you are." Excuse me. "But we're hoping this child doesn't have to face the challenges that you do." Me too. From then on, she put Dad in charge of lifting me, and although she never talked about it again in front of me, I knew she was worried. She gobbled gigantic green vitamin pills, ate lots of fresh oranges and apples, and she had this habit of touching her bulging belly and mumbling a prayer. I could tell that Dad was scared too, but his worry showed up in funny little ways, like bringing Mom piles of purple irises, her favorite flower, or fixing her Gallons of grape Kool-Aid or big plates of grapes. I don't know what made mom crave purple stuff. Instead of watching hours and hours of the Disney Channel, I found myself in the room staring at an empty TV screen, just thinking in the silence. I knew that a new baby, was really time consuming, and I also knew that I took up a lot of time. How would my parents ever have the time for both of us? Then a really horrible thought popped into my mind, my brain. What if they decided to look into Dr. Hughley's suggestions? I couldn't make that thought go away. Boys and girls, remember Dr. Hughley suggested that they put Melody in a special place away from her family. One Saturday afternoon, a few months before the baby was born, I was curled up on the sofa dozing. Mom had put pillows around me to make sure that I didn't fall off, and Butterscotch slept nearby. Dad's favorite jazz station played a saxophone snoozer. Mom and Dad sat together in a smaller sofa, talking together quietly. I'm sure they thought I was asleep. What if, Mom said, her voice tight. It won't be. The chances are so small, honey, Daddy replied. But he sounded unsure. I couldn't bear it, Mom told him. You'd find the strength, he said calmly. But it's not going to happen. The odds are. But what if? She insisted, interrupting him. And for only the second time I could remember, my mother, started to cry. Everything's going to be fine, my father said, trying to soothe her. We've got to think positive thoughts. It's all because of me, my mother said softly. I perked up and listened harder. What do you mean? Dad asked. It's my fault that Melody is like she is. Mom was crying really hard, and I could hardly make out her words. Diane, that's crazy. You can't hold on to that kind of guilt. These things just happen. I could tell Dad was trying to be reasonable. No, I'm the mother, she wailed. It's my job to bring a child into the world safely, and I screwed it up. Every other woman in this planet is able to give birth to a normal baby. There must be something wrong with me. Sweetheart, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. And I could hear him pull my mom to him. But Chuck, I'm so scared this baby is going to be messed up too, she said in a shuddering breath. Please don't go there. Don't even think like that, Dad murmured. Statistically, what are the chances? 2 children who... And I suddenly couldn't hear him anymore because my head was pulsing with the things I wanted to say but couldn't. I wanted to tell my mother that I was sorry she had so sad and so scared, that it wasn't her fault, that I was just the way I was. And she had nothing to do with it. The part that hurts the most is I couldn't tell her any of it. During Mom's entire pregnancy, however, my parents' attention to me never wavered, even though, yeah, I worried it would. Dad did lots more as Mom got closer to her due date. He did some of the laundry, most of the cooking, and all of the lifting and carrying. I got to school on time every day, got my stories read to me every night, and the 3 of us waited and hoped and prayed. But Penny was born perfect. Copper bright, just like her name. From the minute she came home from the hospital, she was a really happy baby. Mom truly did carry a bundle of joy into the house, but I guess the new baby is rough on any parents, especially if they already have a kid like me at home. Sometimes there would be arguments. I could hear them through the bedroom wall. I need more help around here, Chuck, Mom would say, trying to keep her voice low. Well, you pay more attention to that baby than you do me. If you'd help more, I'd have more time for you with 2 kids and one of them Melody. It's not easy. I have to go to work, you know. I have a job too. Don't throw that in my face. Plus, I'm up twice a night to nurse that baby. I know. I'm sorry, Diane. Dad always softened and let Mom win. It's just I'm so tired all the time, Mom would say, her voice muffled. I'm sorry. I'll do better. I promise. I'll take off work tomorrow and take care of both girls. Why don't you go catch a movie or take Mrs. Valencia out to lunch? It would be quite it would be quiet once more, but even so, somehow, I always ended up feeling a teeny bit guilty. Life sure would be easier if they only had one child, one with working parts. I once got one of those electric dolls from Christmas. It was supposed to talk and cry and move its arms and legs if you pushed the right buttons. But when we opened the box, one of the arms had come off, and all the doll did, no matter what button you pushed, was squeak. Mom took it back to the store and got her money back. I wonder if she ever wished she could get a refund from me. But Penny really wasn't or was a perfect baby. After just a few months, she was sleeping through the night and smiling through each day. She sat up exactly when infants are supposed to, rolled over right on schedule, and crawled on cue. Amazing. And it seems so easy. Sure, she fell on her face a few times, but once she got it, she was off. Penny zoomed around like a little wind up toy. She learned that the toilet was fun to splash in and that the lamps would fall if you grabbed the cord. She learned that golden retrievers are not ponies. Peas taste funny, and dead flies on the floor are a no no, but candy is really good. She laughed all the time. She learned her sister, Melody, couldn't do what she could do, but she didn't seem to care, so I tried not to care either. Dad and his camcorder followed Penny around like the paparazzi follow rock stars. We had hundreds of hours of footage of Penny being cute and doing adorable things. And, well, I admit it, sometimes I got kind of sick of watching a new video every time she learned something new. It sort of sucks to watch a baby do what you wish you could do. Penny holding her own bottle. Penny feeding herself teeny tiny Cheerios from her high chair tray. Penny saying mama and dada, just like the babies on Sesame Street. Penny crawling on the floor and chasing butterscotch. Penny clapping her hands. How did her little brain know how to tell her to pull herself up into a standing position, to hold onto the sofa for balance? How did she know how to stand on her own? Sometimes she'd fall over, but then she'd pop right back up. Never ever did she lie there, stuck like a turtle on its shell. Dad still did our nighttime reading, but now it was Penny who snuggled on his lap. I was too big and too hard to balance, so I sat in my wheelchair, my dog at my feet, as the two of them read stories I knew by heart. Butterscotch still slept on only in my room, and I liked that. It really did make me glad to know Penny was learning the same books I love so much. I wondered if she was memorizing them. Probably not. She didn't need to. I think Penny's third word was Dee Dee. She couldn't quite say melody, but she got the last part. I loved it. When Mom put Penny in bed with me after morning bath, she'd grab me and plant wet baby powder smelling kisses all over my face. Dee Dee, she would say again and again. By the time she was 1 year old, Penny could walk. She wobbled all over the house with her fat little legs. She fell a lot, dropping down on her butt and laughing every time she did. Then she'd get back up and try again. That was something I'd never get to try. With two kids in the house, our family routines changed. It took as long to get everybody ready in the morning. Mom made sure Penny was dressed in pretty little outfits every day, even though she was just going next door to Mrs. V's house. My clothes were okay, but I was noticing that lately they were more useful than cute. Mom seemed to be choosing them by how easy they'd get on me. It was kind of a bummer, but I knew I was getting heavier and heavier to lift, and so changing me was harder. I probably should mention that feeding me is a real process. I can't chew very well, so I mostly get soft foods like scrambled eggs or oatmeal or applesauce. Since I can't hold a fork or spoon, I try, but I keep dropping them. Someone has to place the food in my mouth, one spoonful at a time, and it's very slow. Spoon, slurp, swallow. Spoon, slurp, swallow. Lots of food falls on the floor. Butterscotch likes that. She's like a canine vacuum cleaner. Drinking stuff is hard too. I can't hold a glass and I can't sip from a straw. So somebody has to be very careful. Hold a cup to my lips and tip a little bit of liquid into my mouth so I can swallow. Too much and I choke and cough, and we have to start all over. It takes a long time to get a meal in me. I hate the whole process, obviously. And some mornings were really stressful. Chuck, can you bring me Melody's pink shirt from the clean clothes basket? She spilled juice all over her shirt. Mom yelled up the stairs. Didn't you put a bib on her, Diane? Dad yelled back. You know she makes a mess. Why don't you wait and dress her after she eats? So you want me to feed her naked? Just bring the shirt, Mom snapped. And a diaper for Penny. She got a stinker. She's 2. Isn't she old enough to be potty trained? Dad asked, coming down the stairs with a blue shirt I had outgrown in one hand and a diaper in the other. Right. I'll get to potty training her tonight on the 25th hour of my day. Dad picked Penny up. Uh-oh, that's a bad one, he said, his nose all scrunched up. Did you give her sweet potatoes again last night? I thought we were we stopped giving her those because they always give her the runs. Well, if you had gone to the grocery store like I asked, I would have given her something different. And that shirt is blue, not pink, and too small for Melody. Mom stormed out of the kitchen and up the stairs. Sorry, girls, Dad said to us. He whistled softly while he cleaned Penny up, threatened to call the hazmat team. That was kind of funny. Then he finished feeding me breakfast, not caring that my oatmeal was getting all over the juice-stained shirt. Why not? May as well. Make a real mess and make it worth the stress, he said with a laugh. I smiled at him and smeared oatmeal on my tray. Mom came back down with fresh makeup and a freshly painted on smile. Her hair was all done and with my pink shirt. She and Dad hugged in the kitchen. Both took a deep breath, and we actually made it out of the house on time. We had lots of days like that. I hope you enjoyed those chapters, boys and girls. See you at our next Google Meet.